Part 180. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1791. I nodded, and then Su Tianqian and I rummaged through the abandoned area. There is nothing usable in the waste area. But I found Su Tianxuan's diary. I wiped the dust off the diary and carefully put it into my pocket. I don't intend to give this diary to Su Tianqian. After Su Tianqian left, I could still look at things and think about people, and then find a time to tease Su Tianqian with the words in the diary. If I were Su Tianqian, I would probably die on the spot. Su Tianqian and I cleaned up, but there was nothing usable anymore. In the evening, Su Tianqian and I stood in front of the abandoned area. Tianqian, where do you think we should stay next? I asked Su Tianqian. Su Tianqian thought for a while and said, go home, go back to where you started. Isn't that the place where I started was my hometown in the countryside? Okay, when are you leaving? Su Tianqian blinked at me and said, let's go tomorrow. You can take me to have some fun tonight. There are no cars going to my hometown in the countryside at this time. Take Su Tianqian to play in Tianfu City and find a hotel to stay at night. Maybe something pleasant will happen. As for Xiaohei, he can go wherever he wants. I gave the location of my third uncle's house to Xiaohei and asked him to stay there for a while. Thinking of this, I couldn't help but raise the corners of my mouth. What are you laughing at? Su Tianqian asked. No. It's nothing. Let's go and take you for a walk. Later, Su Tianqian and I went to the largest shopping mall in Tianfu City. The mall has 8 floors in total. There are 2 floors underground and 6 floors above ground. There are various stalls outside the mall, and each stall sells different things. Grilled sausages, ice cream, milk tea, all kinds of snacks are available. In addition to snacks, there are also pet sellers. Kittens, puppies, hamsters, and even fish and horned frogs. Women all like cute things, and I do too. So Su Tianqian stopped at a stall selling kittens. Seeing Su Tianqian step forward, people around him consciously moved out of the way. As for why they gave way, it was naturally because of Su Tianxuan's beauty. No matter where he was, Su Tianqian was the center of attention. Both men and women looked at Su Tianqian blankly. Men, most of them have admiration in their eyes. As for women, there is a certain amount of envy in their eyes. Su Tianqian knelt down and looked at a kitten and subconsciously reached out to touch it. The kitten also seemed to like Su Tianqian very much, raising its little head and rubbing Su Tianxuan's palm. Do you like it? How about buying one? I asked Su Tianqian. Su Tianqian shook his head and said, I like her, but I can't raise her. After all, I will leave in a while and there will be no one to take care of her. Then I thought about it and it was the same thing. Su Tianqian stayed in front of the stall for a while and then took my hand and walked towards the mall. To be honest, Su Tianxuan's appearance is really incredible. Countless people turned around and looked around along the way, including several photographers who wanted to take pictures of Su Tianqian. Su Tianqian naturally refused politely. Later, Su Tianqian and I entered the mall. The first floor of the shopping mall is a place selling food, including various local specialties. There is a place selling scratch-off tickets at the entrance of the first floor. Su Tianqian asked me, would you like to have a shave? Let's see how you get lucky. End of chapter. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1792. Okay. I nodded in agreement. Su Tianqian and I bought 2 scratch-off tickets. Then it started to scrape. After scratching one piece, nothing was hit. The same is true for Su Tianqian. What bad luck. I couldn't help but say. Su Tianqian pulled me to the window and said, buy another one. This time, listen to me. I nodded, looked at the scratch card, and asked, How to buy it? Su Tianqian thought for a while, and just as he was about to answer, I saw Su Tianxuan's little movements. Okay. Tianqian. You scratch a lottery ticket and still have to do the math. Su Tianqian quickly retracted his hand like a child who had done something wrong and said, "That's nonsense, where can I forget it?" I laughed and said, "You still say you haven't calculated it yet? I even saw you pinching your fingers." The fortune teller does not pinch his fingers just for show. Instead, use your fingers and palms to memorize the stems and branches, and then use the stems and branches to deduce some needed information. With Su Tianxuan's talent and memory, there is no need to pinch your fingers. But I guess she pinched it when she first started learning it, thus forming a habit. I continued to tease, "Master, you didn't tell me before that this is how my ability is used." Su Tianqian rolled his eyes and said, "That's all. I originally wanted to make you happy, but now it seems there's no need for it." With that said, Su Tianqian turned around and left. I quickly chased after him. "Tianqian, don't be angry, I'm not joking." Su Tianqian stopped and said, "I know you are joking, and I am not angry with you. I am just hungry." "Hungry? Okay, since you're hungry, let's go to the 5th floor, where we'll eat." Su Tianqian nodded. Later, Su Tianqian and I went to the 5th floor and went to a grilled fish restaurant to eat grilled fish. After eating the grilled fish, Su Tianqian took me to buy some. Everything she bought was food, various fruits to be precise. I carried the fruit and asked with some confusion, "Tianqian, don't you like snacks very much? How about we buy some?" Su Tianqian replied calmly, "Snacks are not good for your health, so you should eat more fruits." I whispered in a low voice, "When you were eating snacks before, I told you that it was bad for your health, but you didn't listen and insisted on eating them. What happened today?" Su Tianqian glanced at me and asked, "Xiao Su, what are you mumbling about?" "Nothing," I replied. Su Tianqian did not continue to care about this matter. Later, Su Tianqian and I watched a movie and walked around the mall before finding a hotel to stay. After arriving at the hotel, I put the things I bought on the table, then sat on the bed and looked at Su Tianqian. Su Tianqian asked in confusion, "Why do you look at me like that?" I had my own thoughts and said, Tianqian, do you want to take a bath and go to bed?" Su Tianqian was stunned for a moment, then nodded and said, "You should take a shower. You will also take a shower later." Hearing Su Tianqian say this, I instantly became excited. My very close contact with Su Tianqian only happened once. It's impossible for me, a hot-blooded young man, to say that I don't want to. It just so happens that I have the right time and place today. Even if I bring it up, Su Tianqian won't mind, right? Su Tianqian entered the bathroom and took a look, and I quickly got into the bedroom. "What did you come in for?" Su Tianqian asked warily. "Of course it's a bath. What else would I do?" Su Tianxuan's face turned red and she stretched out her hand to push me out. "No. You wait outside and you can wash it after I finish washing it." End of chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1793. Oh. Tianqian. We are an old married couple, what's wrong with taking a bath together? I yelled as I banged on the door. Su Tianqian didn't answer me. I continued to shout, "Tianqian, you are out of touch now. I am your husband. The kind with a certificate. You are still guarding me." Under my constant shouting, Su Tianqian finally opened the door. "Tianqian, I knew you were the best to me." Su Tianqian glanced at me, then went to the shoe cabinet and entered the bathroom with disposable slippers. Just as I was about to go in, Su Tianqian closed the door again. The corners of my mouth twitched slightly when I saw this. What a thing! I sighed helplessly and lay on the bed. You have a wife, why don't you touch her, alas? I felt itchy listening to the sound of water coming from the bathroom. About half an hour later, the bathroom door opened and Su Tianqian walked out wrapped in a bath towel. A snow-white bath towel was tightly wrapped around Su Tianxuan's delicate body. Her exposed skin was as white as snow, her slender neck, skeletal collarbones, towering breasts, slender waist and straight legs were also flawless. In addition, Su Tianxuan's long, silky hair was wet and sticking to her shoulders. This appearance made Su Tianqian more charming out of thin air. Su Tianqian sat on the bed and said to me, "Go take a shower." Bath. I jumped out of bed and ran towards the bathroom. Su Tianqian looked at my figure and shook his head helplessly. I couldn't wait to walk out of the bathroom after taking a shower. I saw Su Tianqian lying on the bed in a daze. I sat next to her and giggled. Su Tianqian glanced at me lightly and asked, "Why are you giggling?" I coughed softly and said, "What the hell, Tianqian, you know me so well, you should know what I'm thinking, right?" Su Tianqian tilted his head and asked, pretending to be confused, "What are you thinking about? Let me speak more clearly." "That's it, that's what I want to be with you." "Which one?" I put my mouth to Su Tianxuan's ear and whispered something. Su Tianqian nodded very seriously and said, "It's normal for you to have such thoughts, and you don't need to be shy. After all, you are only in your 20s and are full of energy. There is nothing wrong with having such thoughts." "Tianqian, do you agree?" I asked in surprise. "Agreed, of course I agree," Su Tianqian replied. I quickly got into bed, but Su Tianxuan's next words made me collapse on the bed like a deflated ball. "What a coincidence, I'm here for that. To be honest, I want to die now. Why is it such a coincidence?" I counted the days and Su Tianqian was indeed coming at this time. "Well." I let out a long sigh. Su Tianqian couldn't help laughing when she saw me like this. "Kikik." I looked at Su Tianqian and said weakly, "Tianqian, please stop teasing me." Su Tianqian laughed so hard that his branches trembled. "Kikik. Xiao Su, it's funny how anxious you are." I said helplessly, "Tianqian, I beg you, please stop teasing me." Su Tianqian stretched out his hand and gently touched my face and said, "Xiao Su, if it doesn't work in the past few days, it will be fine in a few days. Aren't you going to leave in a few days?" Su Tianqian blinked at me and said, "Xiao Su, look at you, what are you doing worrying about these 2 days? It's not like I won't come back after I leave. After I come back, will you want me again?" End of chapter. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1794. I nodded and replied, "Okay, I was really too impatient this time." Su Tianqian smiled and said, "I don't blame you. I just said that you are young and upright, and full of vigor. If you don't have that kind of idea, I really wonder if there is something wrong with you. However, this kind of thing should be done in moderation. If it happens too often, it will not be good for you." I raised my eyebrows, looked at Su Tianqian and said, "My wife, can you not speak to me like an elder?" "Why?" Su Tianqian asked in confusion. I replied, "Those who know think I have a wife, and those who don't know think I have found a mother." Su Tianqian said helplessly, "If you were more sensible, I wouldn't educate you 9 times out of 10. Honey, if you had said this before, I would still understand." As I spoke, I took Su Tianqian into my arms. "I didn't understand anything before. It's normal for you to teach me a few words. But now that I have experienced so many things, it would be inappropriate for you to educate me, right? After all, I am your husband." How can any wife educate her husband every day? Su Tianqian shrugged and said, I don't know why, but in my eyes you will always be that young boy who has never grown up. It was like that before, it is like that now, and it will be like that in the future. I often wonder, if I am not with you, will you be able to take care of yourself, eat well, sleep well, get along well with others, and will you be unable to recover when you encounter setbacks? Su Tianxuan's voice paused as he spoke, and said, since you don't want me to be like this, then I will change it in the future. I quickly said, no, 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 just leave it like this. I like to be protected and educated by you. Su Tianqian smiled and said, this is what you said. If I talk about you in the future, you can't do this again. Okay, okay. I wholeheartedly agreed. Then Su Tianqian and I were lying on the bed chatting. We talked a lot, just like a normal couple. As we chatted until late at night, I sighed deeply and said, it would be great if we could continue like this. Su Tianqian said softly, yes. Okay, go to sleep and go home tomorrow. I said to Su Tianqian. Su Tianqian agreed, then hugged me and fell asleep. I don't know why, but I can't sleep tonight. Maybe Su Tianqian was tired and slept soundly next to me. I suddenly remembered that Zhao Mian told me that the power of reincarnation can peek into the future. Since I can't sleep now, I might as well give it a try. I got up and went to the balcony, looked up at the stars in the sky, and then sat cross-legged on the ground and kneaded my hands together. I don't know how to use the power of reincarnation to peer into the future. What I can do is to carefully feel the power of reincarnation in my body and see if I can resonate with it. I sat cross-legged for a long time, and my mind suddenly went blank. Immediately afterwards, some memory fragments that I had never seen appeared in my mind. One of the memories shows Su Tianqian wearing a red wedding dress and nestling in my arms. Seeing this scene, I couldn't help but raise the corners of my mouth. It seems that Su Tianqian and I finally held a wedding. But then, my joyful heart was instantly washed away. Because Su Tianqian in my arms was pale, his figure was illusory, and his life breath was slowly disappearing. As soon as the scene changed, Su Tianqian was lying on the bed, already lifeless, and I was standing beside the bed. End of chapter. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1795. I stood next to Su Tianqian with an expressionless face, neither happy nor sad, as if I had already anticipated what was happening in front of me. I leaned down and kissed Su Tianqian gently. At the same time, the door to the room was pushed open and Zhao Mian walked in. I can only see the picture but cannot hear the sound. I don't know what Zhao Mian said to me. I turned around and left with Zhao Mian. The scene ends abruptly here. Then, the screen changed. I came into nothingness, and there was a dark coffin in front of me. This coffin is the sky coffin. My future self lies in a coffin in the sky. I don't know what happened after that. I slowly opened my eyes, tears sliding down the corners of my eyes without knowing when. It seems, everything has been doomed. Only my death will end it all. But Tianqian, is she dead too? At this moment, I felt like a huge boulder was pressing on my chest, making me unable to breathe. Why can't I see all of the future? Did Su Tianqian die physically and mentally? What will happen in the future? If I lie down in the sky coffin, it means that my plan has been successful. If that legend is true, Su Tianqian can live. If nothing unexpected happened later, Su Tianqian would not lie in my arms and die. I felt like my head was going to burst. I don't believe in evil and continue to use the power of reincarnation to peek into the future. I don't know how long it took until the sky turned white. I slowly stood up and looked at the rising sun in the east. I tried everything I could to change this ending. I have calculated everything and can't find any hope. This is my ending, I am willing to accept it. But this is my ending, not Su Tianxuan's ending. Since I can't see the whole future, then I will do my best to grab any hope to change Su Tianxuan's ending. Hope is a beautiful thing, perhaps the most beautiful thing in the world. And good things never fade away. Even if you are in despair, you have to look for hope. Maybe you can succeed. I stared at the rising sun for a long time, then turned and returned to the room. As soon as he returned to the room, Su Tianxian opened his eyes faintly. She yawned and asked, "Xiao Su, why did you get up so early?" I smiled and replied, "I'm not like someone who stays in bed even though the sun is shining on them." Seeing me teasing her, Su Tianxian rolled her eyes at me and said, "Why is the sun shining on my butt? Didn't the sun just rise?" Su Tianxian got dressed and went to the bathroom to wash up. Soon, Su Tianxian finished cleaning up. I packed up briefly and then set off home with Su Tianxian. Ji Yuntang Su Tianxian has already found someone to repair it, but he doesn't know when it will be completed. At noon, Su Tianxian and I returned to our hometown in the countryside. Last time we returned to our hometown in the countryside, Su Tianxian and I cleaned the house. When I came back this time, the house was still full of dust. Su Tianxian and I continued to clean. Cleaning the house is a tedious task. But being able to be by Su Tianxuan's side even when doing boring things is the most wonderful thing for me. In the evening, Su Tianxian and I cleaned the house. I personally cooked a meal for Su Tianxian. All the delicacies on the table were swept away by Su Tianxian. "Tianxian, why do you have such a big appetite?" End of chapter. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1796. Isn't it a long time since I've eaten the food you cooked? So I ate a little more. I nodded. After eating, Su Tianxian and I enjoyed the cool weather in the courtyard. The night is like a curtain, and the stars are so numerous, like the codes of the universe, quietly filling the sky. They are so vast and mysterious. I looked at the stars in the night sky and suddenly asked, "Tianxian, I remember that you like to look at the stars, don't you?" Su Tianxian was startled and replied, "Yes, I used to like watching them very much, but now that there is a being around me that shines brighter than the stars, why should I go to see the stars?" I looked at Su Tianxian and couldn't help but said, "I never expected it." "Tianxian, you can also talk about love." Su Tianxian snorted softly and said, "Why are you allowed to say such disgusting love words but not me?" Allow. Say more like this in the future. I like to hear it." Su Tianxian rolled his eyes and said, "Don't say good things a second time." "Okay, if you don't want to say it, don't say it. I'll tell you later." Su Tianxian smiled brightly and snuggled next to me. Su Tianxian and I cooled off in the yard for a while and then returned to the house. The world went by so fast, and before I knew it, I had spent 3 days with Su Tianxian in my hometown in the countryside. These 3 days were the most peaceful and happiest 3 days in my life. Although I didn't do anything meaningful with Su Tianxian in these 3 days. But such a peaceful life is what I have been pursuing all my life. Long Ji came on the morning of the 4th day. After Long Ji arrived, he briefly talked with me about old times. After reminiscing about old times, Su Tianxian and Long Ji entered the room and chatted alone. The two chatted for a long time, and when Su Tianxian and Long Ji came out, I knew it was time to say goodbye. Long Ji very wisely stepped aside to give Su Tianxian and I some space alone. Su Tianxian looked at me with reluctance and said, "Xiao Su, I'm leaving." I asked in a hoarse voice, "Do you really don't want me to go with you?" Su Tianxian shook his head and replied, "I will go by myself this time." The tomb of the gods has been reinforced and sealed by colorful butterflies. I think the soul of Queen Mother of the West has also been taken back. Yaokai is safe now. After I leave, you must be careful about everything. I will be back before you go to the tomb of the gods. I took Su Tianxuan's hand and asked, aren't you afraid that I will go to the tomb of the gods alone and leave you here? Su Tianxian nodded and said, I'm afraid, but I also have a way to go to the tomb of the gods, so you can't leave me here. I was startled, then smiled bitterly and said, Tianxian, are there any people as clingy as you? I'm clingy? If I were clingy, I'd let you go with me. Su Tianxian smiled. We are about to part ways, and I don't want to tell Su Tianxian anything. Tianxian, don't worry, I will do things carefully and I won't treat myself badly. Su Tianxian looked at me tenderly. What you said is exactly what worries me the most. Xiao Su, after I leave, you must take good care of yourself. No matter what happens, you must think twice before you act. Even if you encounter any hardships, you must go on with determination. I'll be back soon. Just wait for me. To be honest, every time Su Tianxian and I say goodbye, I feel reluctant to say goodbye. The same is true now. I really want to go to Yaokai with Su Tianxian. But with Su Tianxuan's character, no one can change her decision. End of chapter. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1797. Su Tianxian reached out and hugged me gently and said, okay, I'm leaving. You have to wait for me to come back. Okay, I will wait for you to come back. I replied. Su Tianxian let go of me and walked towards Longji. I sent the two of them to the door, and Su Tianxian stopped after taking a few steps. She turned back and looked at me deeply, her eyes full of reluctance. Under Longji's soft urging, Su Tianxian waved at me, then turned and left. When we parted, I felt inseparable, as if the air between me and Su Tianxian had solidified. I stood there, watching Su Tianxuan's leaving figure, feeling secretly sad. This time we say goodbye, I don't know if we will meet again. I don't know if Su Tianxian going to Yaokai can solve the inheritance issue. However, the separation is for a better encounter next time. I should believe Su Tianxian. After Su Tianxian left, I was left alone in the huge room. I lay on the bed and stared at the ceiling. What I have to do now is to find Huo Qubing and fulfill the agreement between me and him. My current strength is more than enough to deal with Huo Qubing. However, I don't know where Huo Qubing is. I couldn't find him, so I had to wait for him to come to me. Huo Qubing came to me on his own initiative before. I guess it will be the same this time. I thought over and over again and decided to stay temporarily in my hometown for a few days to see if Huo Qubing could come find me. In the evening I made a simple dinner. After eating, I lay on the bed and fell asleep. Half asleep and half awake, I seemed to hear someone calling me. I opened my eyes faintly and looked around to find the source of the sound. After searching around, I couldn't find where the sound was coming from. I scratched my head. Am I sleeping? I stretched and wanted to lie on the bed and continue to sleep. As soon as my head hit the pillow, the sound came out. Xiao Su. I sat up suddenly and looked around, looking for the source of the sound with vigilance. I'm sure I heard you right. It's okay to say something wrong even if you hear it wrong once. I heard it twice. Someone must call me again. Moreover, he called me Xiao Su, and only people close to me would call me that. Xiao Su. The voice sounded again, and this time I heard it clearly. This voice was a bit familiar to me. I pondered for a moment, my pupils trembling slightly. This is Grandpa's voice? I quickly stood up and looked for the direction of the sound. I came to the yard and shouted, Grandpa, is that you? But I didn't expect that I could still hear my grandfather's voice now. I don't know how Grandpa appeared beside me. When we parted last time, he told me that he didn't know if we would see each other again this time. Since then, I thought I would never see my grandpa again. However, think carefully about what Grandpa would say. He didn't say goodbye directly to me, but told me that he didn't know if he could see me again. Since we can't see each other again, it means there is still a chance to meet. Grandpa? Where are you? I shouted again. There was general silence all around, no sound at all. I stood outside the yard for a long time, looking forward to Grandpa talking to me here. But I waited for a long time and didn't hear Grandpa's voice. Just when I decided to give up, Grandpa's voice sounded again. Xiao Su, it's Grandpa. End of chapter. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1798. Grandpa's voice sounded ethereal and unreal. Grandpa, where are you? I asked. Grandpa did not answer. This made me frown more and more. I waited for a long time for Grandpa's voice to ring from my ears again. Grandpa is in the room. Room. I was slightly startled and walked towards the room where my grandfather lived before. I reached out and pushed the door open. Grandpa's room is very simply furnished, with a table, a chair, a bed, and a large wardrobe. In my impression, my grandfather's room always looked like this. After Grandpa left, I didn't touch the furnishings in the room. Grandpa, where are you? I looked around and then searched the whole room, but there was no sign of Grandpa. Just when I was wondering, my grandfather's voice sounded again. This time, my grandfather's voice was exceptionally clear. Xiao Su, Grandpa possessed a remnant soul in the wooden figure in the cabinet. After hearing this, I quickly came to the cabinet and opened the door. I rummaged around inside and sure enough I found a small wooden man. The little wooden man is a reduced version of my grandpa, and the carving is lifelike. Especially the wooden man's facial features made me a little confused. Xiao Su, Grandpa has something he wants you to do. I quickly took the little wooden man and placed it respectfully on the table. Grandpa, tell me, no matter what you do, your grandson will try his best to do it. Grandpa said, you leave for the capital tomorrow and find an old man named Longfei Eyes Hang. Going to the capital? I asked, Grandpa, what should I do after I find the old man? Grandpa fell into silence. After a while, he continued to answer, if you think about it carefully, the Long family has also encountered a big trouble. You have to help resolve the crisis in the Long family. This matter may seem to have nothing to do with you, but in fact it is closely related to you. I was extremely confused. Grandpa, can you speak more clearly? Grandpa replied, Xiao Su, you do as Grandpa said. Now only the Pa-Jun star and the 7 killing stars are left in the 9 evil stars. You already know who Pa-Jun Sing is, but Xiao Su, you also know that returning the evil star to the palace will not solve everything. You still need to go to the Sky Coffin. As for how to get to the 8th floor of the Sky Coffin, it's about the Long family. I was slightly startled and said, Grandpa, wouldn't it be possible for me to enter the 8th floor of the coffin if I find Huo Qubing? It's not that simple. If Grandpa's calculation is correct, Huo Qubing should be in the coffin. I frowned. Then Huo Qubing finally got out of the coffin. Why did he get in again? The reason why Grandpa can meet you is because Grandpa divided the 3 souls and 7 souls into several parts and stored them in different places, because only in this way can he guide you when you are confused. Carefully calculate the opportunity for our grandfather and grandson to meet, except this one, it will be the last time. Grandpa's weak voice suddenly became friendly. Xiao Su, Grandpa is very pleased that you have grown so powerful. Grandpa's remnant soul can't hold on for much longer. When we meet for the last time, Grandpa must have a good talk with you. I nodded and said, okay, Grandpa, don't worry, I will definitely complete what you told me. As soon as he finished speaking, Grandpa's voice disappeared. I picked up the little wooden man. Just now I could clearly feel the remnant soul in the wooden man, but now the remnant soul in the wooden man disappeared without a trace. End of chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Sky Coffin. Author, Ching Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1799. I didn't know until now. Grandpa gave his own life in exchange for my chance to live. Not only that, Grandpa also divided his soul into multiple parts to pave the way for himself. But I, the grandson, don't understand it until now. Grandpa asked me to go to the capital to find an old man named Longfei's Hang. To be precise, he was looking after Longfei's Hang. I guess this matter was planned by my grandfather before, in order to pave the way for me. As for Huo Qubing, I can't find him for the time being. I might as well go to the capital. After all, Grandpa just told me that the affairs of the Long family are related to Po Jungxing's return to the palace. After returning to the room, I began to think about this matter. I originally thought that Po Jungxing's matter would be handled easily, as long as Huo Qubing returned to the palace willingly. But now it seems that it is not that simple. Huo Qubing's whereabouts are unknown, and Grandpa said he is in a coffin. But, didn't Huo Qubing escape from the coffin? Why run back? Moreover, various monsters are imprisoned on each floor of the sky coffin, so what is imprisoned on the 8th floor? Was it because of this incident that Huo Qubing returned to the coffin? I thought for a long time but didn't have any clue, so I might as well go to the capital tomorrow. The next morning I simply packed up and headed to the capital. Tianfu City is not far from the capital, and it only takes more than an hour by high-speed rail. I set off at 9 in the morning and arrived at 10. I have never been to Beijing or visited various attractions in Beijing. I have never been to the Forbidden City, the Summer Palace, or the Old Summer Palace. If I were an ordinary person and there was no such heavy burden on my shoulders, I think I would have a lot of fun. But I came to Beijing this time for a purpose. So I didn't dare to neglect. After arriving in the capital, I started to inquire about the whereabouts of Longfei's Hang. If you want to know a city as quickly as possible, search it online. If you want to know more, ask the taxi driver. I flagged down a taxi. The driver asked, "Where are you going, young man?" I replied, "Master, please take me around." The driver was slightly startled and said, "Young man, aren't you afraid that I will cheat you?" I smiled and said, "Don't be afraid, because the master seems to be a good person." The master laughed loudly and said, "Young man, you are really good at judging people. The only good thing about me is that I have a kind heart. Let's go, I'll take you to visit the capital." Then the driver drove me around the capital. In the car, I chatted with the driver for a few words, and then I took the opportunity to ask, "Master, do you know a man named Longfei's Hang?" When these words came out, the driver was startled, and then said excitedly, "I know. Of course I know." I asked with some surprise, "Master, looking at you like this, could it be that you know Longfei's Hang?" The driver chuckled and said, "I know you, of course I know you, but they don't know me." Listening to the driver's words, I can tell that this Longfei's Hang is a celebrity. "Master, please tell me." The driver nodded and said, "Longfei's Hang is the old man of the Long family. The Long family is the first family in the capital. They are powerful, rich, and powerful. It is said that the Long family had a prince before. I don't know whether it is true or not. However, something happened to the Long family recently." "Things, what things?" I asked. End of chapter. Sky Coffin. Author, Ching Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1800. The driver replied, Long Fai's Hang, the old man of the Long family, has been suffering from nightmares recently. He is haunted by nightmares every night. In order to solve this problem, the old man of the Long family has spent a lot of money to reward various capable people and strangers to exorcise evil spirits and pray for blessings. Now, there should be many Feng Shui masters and Taoist priests in the Long family. After hearing this, I nodded and said to the driver, Master, please take me to Long's house. The driver was startled and asked, What are you doing at Long's house? I smiled and said, Of course I'm going to make money. Making money? Are you a Taoist priest? Don't be kidding me. There is no Taoist priest as young as you. I smiled and said, Master driver, you can't tell a person by his appearance. How do you know I don't know magic? The driver curled his lips and obviously didn't believe what I said. However, the driver didn't say anything else. He turned the steering wheel and took me to Long's house. Soon, I arrived at Long's house, paid the money and got out of the car. I was extremely shocked when I looked at this antique courtyard house in front of me. This courtyard house covers a very large area. It covers an area of 7 or 8 acres. Standing at the door, I had the illusion that I was in a scenic spot. The fact that the Long family can own such a courtyard in the capital shows that the family's power is extraordinary. 2 servants of the Long family stood at the door. I hesitated for a moment and walked towards the courtyard. As soon as he reached the door, he was stopped by these 2 servants of the Long family. Sir, please stay. I stopped and looked at the 2 servants of the Long family. One of the servants of the Long family stepped forward and asked me, Sir, what are you doing here? As expected of a servant of a big family, he was so polite when he spoke. If it were an ordinary person, I would have been pushed aside long ago. I spoke up and said, I heard that Mr. Long offered a reward to someone capable of solving the nightmare ritual. I am here to solve the problem for Mr. Long. The 2 servants looked at each other with disbelief in their eyes. Sorry sir, we can't let you in. The servant spoke. Why? I asked. The servant explained, Sir, it's like this. There are countless Taoist priests and Feng Shui masters these days, and there are many scammers among them. Even if they cheat money, they actually mess around at home. It is precisely because of this precedent that we servants have to be more cautious. I frowned. It would be really difficult to get in if no one recommended me. My mind was racing, thinking of excuses to get in. While I was deep in thought, a woman's voice suddenly sounded from behind. What are you doing here? The servant's expression changed when he heard this voice, and he quickly looked behind me. The 2 servants said respectfully, Miss, it's like this. This gentleman wants to go in and see the old lady. I looked back and saw a young and beautiful girl standing behind me. The girl has a slender figure, pure appearance, gentle temperament, and deep wisdom and unique charm hidden in her eyes. In addition, the girl's skin is as white as snow and as delicate as porcelain. When I looked at the girl was also looking at me. The girl looked at me for a long time and said, Since he is here to see what's going on, let him in. The servant quickly came to the girl's side and whispered, Miss, how can you think that this boy is capable at such a young age? I guess he is a liar. End of chapter.